More Healey giving her first State of the Commonwealth tonight. Good Wednesday evening, everyone, and welcome to Western Mass News at 10. I'm Chris Pisano. The governor highlighting many of her first-year accomplishments, even while facing an exploding migrant crisis and decreasing tax revenues.
Good evening, Massachusetts. Good evening, Massachusetts.
Governor Maura Healey Wednesday night giving her own assessment of her first term in office. The Democrat and first openly LGBTQ person elected governor in Massachusetts, touting some major milestones since her swearing in just over a year ago. She introduced Jay and Lisa Savage, potato farmers from Deerfield, who benefited from the millions of dollars in aid to hundreds of local farms that experienced crop damage due to frost and flooding.
In western and central Massachusetts, I stood with families like the Savages who were staring down the total and complete loss of their crops just before the harvest.
The governor also highlighted her program to provide free community college to residents 25 years and older, and a sweeping program to make free school meals permanent to all students at public schools. She touched on the future rebuilding of the Cape Cod bridges in Eastern Mass and the rebuilding of the Veterans Home here in Western Mass.
In August, we broke ground on a new state-of-the-art facility that will provide the world-class care our veterans deserve.
And while acknowledging a strong business environment in the Bay State with record low unemployment, Healey pointed out rising costs due to inflation and, as a result, more and more families struggling to pay their bills.
That's why we were determined to deliver relief from high costs. The legislature shared that goal. We worked together, we kept at it, and we passed a $1 billion tax cut this year that will save money for everyone in this state.
All this amidst the migrant crisis as emergency shelters across the state overflow with migrant families. The state legislature allocating $250 million in their latest budget to help alleviate pressure on local towns and cities. And most recently, the governor announced budget cuts to cover a $1 billion tax shortfall, the largest cuts to Mass Health. Still, Governor Healey remained consistently positive and optimistic about the future.
A year ago, you put your trust in us, and we've worked hard every day to try to live up to that responsibility. The whole way, we've been guided by this simple truth, that behind every decision we make is a student, a family, a business owner, a senior. That's who we work for.